welcome to the other three amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's TOTAP time.
On this week's Las Damas, we take a quick look back at Ireland's game against England last week and ask, do Ireland have problem solvers on the pitch? How does Eileen feel now that she isn't the only podcast superstar in the family? We review last weekend's games. We look ahead to next weekend's Avenir Sports Women's All-Ireland Cup 2024 second round games. And as always, we have much more on this week's Las Damas, where things lie somewhere between John and death. Hello and welcome to TOTAP Las Damas Season 3, Episode 7, Episode 194 of the full TOTAP catalogue. We were once an award-winning podcast. We are now on Patreon. Can be found at patreon.com/TOTAP. As always, we'd ask if you could retweet the pod. It's very important to help us grow. And our DMs are always open, even though we're not really getting any. But sure, look, we'll keep them open anyway. And hit us up if there's something you want us to discuss in the next few weeks. As always, just want to introduce my two amigos. First, sitting comfortably above in County Tipperary's John O'Sullivan. John, how are you, sir?
I'm really good, Decky. How are you?
I can't complain now. Can't complain. It wasn't as good a week of football as it was last week, but still enjoyable all the same. And then the queen of Irish women's football podcasting,
Karen Duggan's here.
Eileen Ring. No, and I don't think she ever will be, will she, Eileen?
Sad times. You never know. We might talk her into it at some stage. But good evening. How are you both doing?
Can't complain, no. Can't complain. Giving away little trade secrets there now already, are we? So look, this week, I was going to say this week in women's football, but since we were here last week, the FAI have confirmed that Hannah Dingley will start her role as head of women's and girls football on May 20th. So still probably 5 weeks out. Eileen, we discussed this last time out, so don't really want to go over it again. But look, we have a start date. It's confirmed that Dan McDonnell's story was right when he released it, and to be fair, Dan is rarely wrong. So look, appointment made, something to look forward to. Nothing to add to what we spoke about previously, I think.
No, look, as I said, just approach it now. I'd approach it. It's an appointment made, which obviously doesn't appear to be an easy thing for the FAI to do at the moment. So that's positive. And look, just get behind her and hopefully time will tell. As I said, I'm not going to judge her one way or the other, but just give her time and see where we go with it. But yeah, positive that the appointment's been made anyway.
Yeah, great news, because John O'Shea had gone favourite for it at one stage. So last Tuesday night, Ireland 0, England 2. Like, what can we say, John? It was a slow start, 2 down early. England missed a penalty, and it looked like there was a possibility that there might be a cricket score in the way. But to be fair to Ireland, kept themselves in the game, reset themselves at half time, and finished the game quite strong. So, look, we lost, but it could have been a whole lot worse, to be fair.
Yeah, when the second penalty was awarded, you know, you were kind of looking at it going, God, this could end up as any kind of score, because they came out of the blocks at 100 miles an hour. But yeah, I thought, given the start overall, we weren't bad. I think the finish of the game, while we were quite strong, was very scattered and chaotic, more than really putting them under in any kind of constructive kind of pressure. It was, long throws into the box, which, nearly worked on a couple of occasions. But it was, look, no worse than we had feared, definitely. Considering the start we had, you have to give the team credit for leaving it at, or keeping it, keeping the scoreline down, keeping it respectable. And look, again, signs promise in the second half. I think Leanne Kiernan has to start the next game out, though, just to see what she can do for the full 90 minutes. But it was good. Yeah, I was kind of happy enough with it, really, surprisingly, even though we lost.
Eileen, 2 penalties, a tale of 2 penalties. They say, any doubt about the penalty given against Little John? And obviously there was all the doubt in the world then about the second penalty.
Yeah, to be fair, like it was a great blockdown from Rusha if she was playing GA. Like it was spectacular in fairness, but that's a penalty, all right. But yeah, I think the Louise Quinn one is pretty harsh. But yeah, look, just to kind of reiterate what John said, like I think Leanne has to start, and I think you need to see Katie in a more forward role because, well, maybe form wise she's not at the highest level at the moment. Like her press and her kind of intensity and energy, obviously, like the whole squad feeds off that. And you could see that, like when she was more forward in the second half, I thought for attacking wise, it made a big difference. And look, if Aoife Mannion stays fit and Anna Patton stays fit, that obviously frees Katie up to be that little bit further forward, which is great. It was a little bit surprised not to see Megan Connolly start because I thought she'd done quite well in France. She was probably one of the people who held on to the ball better, but yeah, I think in the first half we gave Kira Walsh like way too much time as well. She's one of the best footballers in the world. Like she's certainly the best footballer in her position, and she just had so much time. Like, and even if she doesn't have the time, she makes it look like she does. But it was too slow a start, and you can't give those sides those starts. And then you on the other side, you have to take your chances because they're few and far between. And we had really good opportunities and we didn't take them. But yeah, look, I think overall it's positive enough. And you look at the next 2 games now going forward and build on that.
You're both saying there that Leanne Kiernan has to start next time out. I presume for Caruso, there's no other change that you would be making, John. Would there? Not that there's no other change, but that would be the change if you were starting Leanne.
Probably. I'm not sure you can play Leanne just on her own up front, though. I think that would be slightly different lineup or setup. Because I think Caruso obviously something a little bit different. But yeah, I think both games she's come on, she's lifted the team as a whole. So yeah, I think she has to start next game out.
I thought both Denise O'Sullivan and Katie McCabe were both relatively poor in the game for long periods. Is that overly harsh?
I think it probably is a bit harsh. I think her season's just starting and she's obviously missed a big chunk of her pre-season as well. So like she's only 2 or 3 games into her season, so it's natural that she's getting going. I do think Katie's form at the moment, it's not where it has been, but like her form has been like through the roof for the last maybe 2 years. And like there are 2 players who've really carried this side for a very long time and carried all our hopes as well nearly. And they're entitled to have games where form-wise they're a little bit off. I think the important thing, and I think we really saw it, as said, especially in the second half with Katie, is that like maybe while footballing wise, and you can see how frustrated she gets herself with it when it's not coming off, that didn't ever change her work ethic to the game and how she was pressing and what she's demanding of people around her. Like, so as I said, while maybe form wise she certainly has been in better form, but like I was just watching Arsenal earlier on there, like she didn't even start tonight for Arsenal, like, so now look, she came on and she was on the pitch 5 minutes and she had an assist as well. So look, it's football. Like, you're going to have periods where your form dips a bit, and look, hopefully we'll see the best of them again come May, and that we don't have a Katie McCabe either going into that game after being in Australia the week before for a post-season friendly game.
Yeah, I saw that. But she won't go to Australia, will she? She won't be part of that Arsenal travelling squad.
I don't know, because like all that Arsenal squad are internationals, all of who have games, like, so they've sold a huge amount of tickets for that game. So like, and she said it herself, like Arsenal are her employers. Like if she's told to go, she's to go. Like, but it's terrible. It's atrocious planning by Arsenal, and I'm surprised at them because they've had such a bad run injury wise last season, and I think a lot of the huge amount of ACLs we're seeing is coming down to load at the moment in the women's game, load and travel. Like there's too many international windows, so to be throwing on at the end of a season, a pre-season, a post-season trip when players have to turn around and come back into European qualifiers, it's banana stuff. It really is.
But am I right in saying, and I saw a certain amount of it, but what I did read from an Arsenal point of view was basically Arsenal saying we don't give a shit. This is commercially viable and commercially important to us, and that's our priority at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't see anything of that, like, but obviously they don't, because they wouldn't have like sorted out the game if, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the reality is from Arsenal, of course, it makes a commercial point, like it makes sense commercially, but like player welfare wise, it makes absolutely no sense. I'm an Arsenal fan and I'm saying there's absolutely no sense in this. I saw someone saying on Twitter, but fans across the world don't get to see them. But like, that's just, I mean, there's teams in Australia, like you don't have to support a team halfway across the world. Do you know what I mean? And like, I support Arsenal.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm under some kind of divine right that they should come and play in Turner's Cross. Well, they can't obviously, but come and play here. Like it is what it is. Like, but it's frustrating. I just think it's hard on the players. And as I said, I think there's way too much. There's too many international breaks as it is in the thing, and I get that's not Arsenal's fault, but like lumbering them with a big trip like that it's silly stuff, I think.
Final thing, and I'll take it back to the Ireland-England game, John. The last question I wanted to ask you was, and Eileen mentioned the issue in the first half especially, I think they solved it to a large degree at half-time, which was Walsh just having to run at the park because England had 3 in the centre of the park. She kept dropping into a spot between Carusa and the Irish midfield, and the Irish midfield was deep, obviously, especially in the first half. And I could see in 3, 4, 5 occasions, Carusa turning around and pointing at her and kind of saying, look, she's there. Can somebody do this? Because her job was to try and press the front 2 from the front, so she didn't want to drop in. And there was complete indecision in how it was going to be handled and what was going to happen. And as Eileen said, Walsh just ran the rule for the first half, just picked up the ball, had all the space in the world. And my question is this: I was worried watching the game that it showed that there's an inability in that Irish team to solve problems themselves as they become apparent on the pitch. And it was really only when they got in at half time and it was obviously sorted in the dressing room, they came back out second half, that it appeared to be sorted to a certain degree. So as I said, the question is just basically, would you agree with me that it looks like there's an issue with players being able to just solve these kind of problems as they present themselves on the pitch? Or is that very harsh again?
No, it's a good observation. I noticed the same thing with Carusa, to be honest. And part of me was in my head going,
You do it.
You do it. You're pointing. You do
Yeah.
it. But obviously, then if she comes deep with the rest of the team, there's absolutely no outball. And I think it was possibly. I know she had Ciara Walsh had the run of midfield, but I think the concern was so much what was behind that midfield, in terms of Lauren James, that they didn't want to push out,
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I suppose what I would say to echo your point is Carusa was spotting the issue. She was looking for support on it. Maybe previously, it's the last couple of years, that's probably somewhere where we would have seen Denise O'Sullivan shove on a little bit, maybe, get in her face a little bit, help with the press. But again, it probably goes back to what Eileen was saying. We're at our best when we can have Katie McCabe that little bit further forward, because she tends to be the one that controls when we press, where we press, and organize people's around. And maybe there aren't others on the team that have that kind of ability to solve problems that Katie has.
Yeah, if ever there was a time I thought that I wanted to see one of Eileen's favourite moments in football, where the goalkeeper goes down with a mystery injury and needs 2 minutes of treatment, I thought at some stage during the first half was the perfect opportunity for Brosnan, just somebody to say, you go down and we'll get to the coaches and we'll try and sort this some way or another while this mystery injury or your poor calf muscle is getting treated or whatever it is. Well, look, it didn't happen, but look, as I said, not the worst of results. Finally, guys, Julie Ann Russell was named Player of the Month for April. Any objections, Eileen? Or a standout candidate?
Yeah, look, I think there's probably very little to give between herself and Jenna, but I think Julianne's incredible. I think I've probably said that every single week. I'm going to wax lyrically about her again later on when I'm talking about the Galway game. She's an incredible player. As I said, she's just back. She missed most of last season because she obviously had a baby, but as Phil said, she was still in around the squad the whole time. And look, she's just one of those players that's fun to watch, and she's had an incredible career at a really top level. And I think having her in there, like, it's just such a plus for Galway because they are a young side. And as you said, like, I mean, if you have 10 minutes, like, even even if you only have 10 minutes this week, go back and watch highlights of the Galway game that they have up themselves. Just watch her. Like, she's absolute quality. She really, really is. And just very unselfish type of player as well. So yeah, look, brilliant to have her back in the league. And as you said, I know you could probably argue that Jenna had a big thing, and I know your thing was that Jenna had been in a lot of team of the weeks, but I think sometimes team of the week can be based on the fact that you scored a goal or you kept a clean sheet, which is grand too. But, and I said there would have been no objections had Jenna got it. But look, I think generally, whatever about the team of the week, you very rarely find like that the 6 that'll be nominated for player of the month, they'll all be deserving candidates. Like, and I think that was the case this time as well. But I have a feeling it won't be the last player of the month award she'll see this season, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're poking me now about the team of the week and the rest of it, and it's a very deliberate act that I'm going to fall headfirst on, no problem whatsoever. Like, the thing about that struck me about it was, right, Jenna Slattery, there was 3 teams of the week in the month, and Jenna Slattery was in all 3 teams of the week, the only player in the league to be in all 3 teams of the week. Alex Kavanagh was in 2 teams of the week. Julianne Russell was in 1 team of the week. So she was in team of the week once when Jenna was in the 3 teams of the week, but she wins player of the month and Jenna doesn't. And I'm just kind of going, make it make sense. And I'm not saying make it make sense from Julianne Russell winning player of the month. I'm trying to say make it make sense from the team of the week nonsense that just drives me cuckoo week in, week out. But I don't want to devalue any of the 37 players who have so far appeared in the team of the week. So it's just, as I said, make it make sense for me, John, if you can at all.
Absolutely can't. I think no. Look, just to echo what Eileen said, I think it was only going to one of 2 people for the month, and I don't think you could really argue with Julianne Russell picking it up. She's been outstanding. Jenna Slattery would have been an equally deserving recipient, but Julianne Russell, look, she's been fantastic for Galway, and yeah, I think Jenna will probably win it next month the way things are lining up anyway. So she'll have her turn.
Yeah, as I said, there's been, including the team of the week this week, so there's been 4 weeks. There's been 37 different players in the team of the week so far. Club-wise, Galway have had 9. Not different players, but 9, players in the teams of the week. Shelburne 7. Treaty 6. Everybody else then is 4, 3, 2, 1. But every team has had a player, has had a representative in the teams of the week so far. So, look, I'm not going to say it's political, but Eileen, we got mail. We've had a request. No, I'm not saying the team of the week or the player of the month is political in any way. No, Julianne Russell fully deserved to win the player of the month. So just in comparison, when you line it all up with the teams of the week and the rest of it, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense. We had mail from a listener in Limerick who wants Eileen to put together her Cork City all-time 11. So we set you about the task, Eileen. I don't know, have I got a drum roll here? I think I have a drum roll. I can give you a drum roll if you want it. And you can bounce into your Cork City all-time 11. Cork City women and Cork City.
Yeah, so I'm going Cork women, so basically the Cork side since the inception of the league. So anyone who's played for the Cork side in whatever their name was at the time. Now, first of all, my brother last week, I've ridiculed him all week because he gave an all-time Cork City 11 that didn't include Colin Healy and did include Greg Bulger. So I've given him abuse all week. So if anyone wants to abuse me, feel free to. That's okay. This is just, as Declan would say, my truth.
Can I stop you before you go any further and just ask you, how have you dealt with not being the podcast superstar in the family this week? Because Mick appeared on the official Cork City Club podcast and just blew everybody away with, the amount of language he used, but apart from the amount of language he used, his stories and everything else,
First of all, I'm delighted to see that there's somebody that curses more than me. I have always known that he curses more than me, but it's nice that now that everyone knows it. Second of all, he's brilliant. Michael, he has such good, Mick, has such good stories. The only thing is I think, and look, I don't want to insult a podcast, but they should have just let Aaron and Michael talk, because I think Aaron would have got more stories out of him, because he has some really, really good stories, like naturally, as you do being involved with the club. But maybe look, when in the fullness of time, if he moves on, he might come on to a more engaging podcast, perhaps.
Oh, yes, maybe.
Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to go through it, and then I'm going to give some honourable mentions. So I've basically included anyone who has ever appeared for us, essentially. It doesn't matter the amount of appearances. So don't come at me and say they were only there for a season. I don't care. They're in my team. Okay, so in goal, we have Amanda Budden. I've then went with a back four of Ava O'Mahony, Ciara McNamara, Savannah McCarthy and Danielle Burke. I've went for a midfield four of Lindsay McKee, Denise O'Sullivan, Eva Mangan and Katie McCarthy. And up top, I've went for the second and third best strikers to come out of Douglas Hall, Claire Shine and Saoirse Noonan. I have, no, it's really, really hard. Like Zara Foley, Natalie O'Brien, Mary Curtin could have all got in there very easily. Emma Farmer was incredible for us, maybe the first 2 seasons as Cork Women's. In fact, I actually think she might have been in team of the season, one of the early seasons. And also around 2017, we had a girl. Now, I'm going to say she's Canadian. Megan, if you're American, I'm sorry, but I thought you were Canadian. Megan Burke, she was incredible. Just one of these players who did the simple things all the time. But it's like your kind of analogy always, Decky. I think, we always knew how good she was when she wasn't in the team. But look, obviously, I've leaned heavily there to a lot of the 2017 kind of cup winning side, because obviously, look, I think that was Cork City at its pinnacle. I know I've Eva in there as well, because how good would she be with all those players around her? Not being disrespectful to current lineup, but like she'd be incredible. Like she's really carried the side in the last years. Like, and can you just imagine her with all of those around her? It'd be impressive.
Okay. John, any observations on that?
Did you not have Denise O'Sullivan in there? No,
I did, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Jesus, I was for a second there. I was a mistake.
My midfield four was Lindsay McKee, Denise, Eva Mangan, and Katie McCarthy.
Yeah. No, I think you're pulling a bit of a Swift from putting Ava Mahoney right back. That's the only thing I'd say.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, like, to be fair, herself and Danielle are both interchangeable as full-backs. And also, all of my entire back four can play anywhere along the back line. So they're all incredibly interchangeable.
No, actually,
but like, to be fair, like Amanda, Ciara Mack, Danielle, Katie, Claire, Saoirse, they all won the cup in 2017, and they were just such big parts of that side as well. Ciara captained us, obviously. She's,
Yeah.
Declan, go on.
Sorry?
You were about to give out, go on.
No, I wasn't about to give out. I was about to ask you a question in regards to, have you just gone with players rather than players in position? Like, to me, Danielle Burke was a centre back. You're saying she's interchangeable at right back.
Yeah, she played full back for her first couple of seasons at City.
Yeah.
So every player that I have put in a position has played in that position for Cork City Football Club or Cork Women's.
All right, Eileen. All right. Just count out.
That's what I was going to say.
I know, because I knew you'd come at me with this.
Yeah, people cannot see her face now, and how she is like, I am defending this moment, and do not cross me, like,
No, like, I knew you'd come at me with that, and as I said, they've all played there at some point. So Danielle has played all across the back four. She's also played in the 6. Ciara Mack has played all across the back line. Savannah McCarthy has, and in midfield. Ava has. Maybe she hasn't played centre back, but she's played in midfield as well. Lindsay McLee and Katie McCarthy can both play in the 10 or up top or wide. And Denise and Eva are probably the only two that have predominantly played centrally. Maybe Denise played up top for a little bit.
Okay, in your side, where is Ciara Mack starting? Is she starting at right back or is she starting centre back?
She started. My centre halves are Ciara Mack and Savannah McCarthy.
Okay, so Danielle is starting at right back and Ava O'Mahony starting at left back.
Yeah, just to go to help John. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then the question is Danielle Burke the best right back they've ever played for a Cork team in the National League?
Yes, that's why she's in my team. in my opinion. That's my truth.
Your take.
I think to be,
Okay.
I know,
Okay.
Just widen her up now.
to be fair, I do think, and like that was like defensively is probably, I think, the biggest conundrum, because I said you have Zara Foley, you have Emma Farmer, and like you have
Yeah.
Natalie O'Brien, who was incredible as well. Like, and they were all obviously defenders, I think. And you had Mary Curtin. Sorry, I left Mary out totally as well. Again, has played across that full back line. Like, so defensively is probably where we've had our best players, but I think like who I've included, like Ciara Mack, like for me is one. I think Ciara came into the side after that European Championship in 2014. And to be fair to her, she came in at a time when, I mean, now we were absolute shit. We used to lose every single game, like 12, 13, 14-0. And she came in like, and that was a really big move for her, because all the other players that were in the school, like she would have had a choice to go play anywhere in the country. And it really wasn't for another year or two that when Niall O'Regan came in that change happened. So like for me, someone like Ciara is just kind of a given for that reason, you know?
Okay, cool.
I got to jump in
Jonas,
there as well.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No. I look, we were only winding you up. I don't think you can fault that 11 at all. But just to echo what Eileen said, like, I mean, obviously, Eva Mangan and Ciara Mack are two that are in, you know, the current squad, and two outstanding players. But Ciara, like, she's been with the club 10 years. Like you said, Eileen, she came in at 2014 as a kid, practically after the under-19 European Championships. And like, what a servant she's been, and like, because like that, she's actually 10 years at the club now. Should be seriously having to talk about having a testimonial for her, like, genuinely. I think she's been an unreal ambassador for the club as well. Like, she's just a fantastic representative all around. Big Ciara Mack fans here in the pod.
Very much so. Yeah.
10 years was always a testimonial. Yeah, it's not kind of really done anymore, but I mean, there's no reason why you can't go back to it.
Yeah, that's how many players stick with any club for 10 years anymore? Bar the entire Shells 11, apparently.
Okay, let's move on. So look, that's Eileen's all-time Cork Women's 11. If you're a fan of another club and you want Eileen to do that club's all-time 11, just let us know and we'll set her to work. There's no problem whatsoever. We'll see how defensive she gets about that 11 in time.
Declan, I have a manager.
Yes,
I have a manager as well.
Oh, you have a manager? Okay, cool.
I do, yeah.
Is it?
And a coaching staff. I just have a manager.
Go on, the manager so quickly. It has to be. It has to be. I presume it has to be. But anyway.
It's Frank Kelleher.
Yeah.
Am I predictable?
Right, okay.
Oh, you weren't expecting that at all.
I was.
Did you think
I know
I'd go
that
with
you
Danny?
say it. No, No, I didn't, to be honest with you. Sorry, Danny. Well, he's not allowed to listen anyway, so I presume he's not. But
another few years, probably Danny, but right now, Frank.
That's a fair enough call. I actually had it in my head that Niall O'Regan was in charge when they won the cup, but he wasn't. He had moved on, and Frank had taken over. So that's funny, what was actually in my head.
From doing the program for the club, like when you talk to any of the players that were involved in that cup winning side, they talk about the detail that Frank had and his preparation, and
incredible.
Like everyone speaks so highly of him and just his preparation, his detail. And when they went out to that cup final, like they just knew everything about the opposition on the day. Like, it was, you know, he was great manager. Good call, Eileen.
Okay. Well, look, guys, we're going to have to park it there because we are no longer a Cork City podcast, and we have a wider audience now to appeal to. So. So this week in the under-17s Group A, it was Bohs 2, Shelburne 0, Finn Harps 0, Shamrock Rovers 2, and Dundalk 5, Longford 0. Group B saw Pats win 1-0 away in Sligo. Athlone beat Mayo 4-1 at home. DLR 1, Treaty 5, and Galway United 0, Peamount 6. In Group C, Wexford 3, CK United 1, Kerry 0, Waterford 1, and Bray 5, Cove Ramblers 0. Under 19s, Group A was Bows 1, Dundalk 1, Shells 2, Peamount 1. Group B saw Athlone beat Bray 6-0, Sligo 2, Galway 1 in the Big Connacht Derby, and DLR 1, Shamrock Rovers 1. Group C saw CK United win 3-2 against Treaty in Limerick. Cork City were beaten 1-0 by Wexford in Bishopstown, and Waterford beat Cove 4-0 in Cove. John, anything jump out at you there? I guess I should just say, going back to the under-17s Group A there, that Bows 2, Shelburne 0. Bows play Shamrock Rovers in that group next weekend. And basically what's a big game, Bows and Shamrock Rovers are both clear of the rest. I know it's under-17s, but I noticed that it's Albin Heisa is looking after that Bows under-17 team, of course, who we know was in charge of Treaty's senior team last year. So it's good to see Albin still involved in the game at some level anyway. And I'm kind of still surprised that what he achieved at Treaty last year has been kind of massive. It seems to be massively overlooked anyway, and that he wasn't able to pick up a senior job in the off-season just gone.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. No, I mean, I didn't actually know that, Decky. No, it's good. It's good to see that he's back with a club, and I don't think it'll be long before he is back in a senior job. To be honest, did a fantastic job at Treaty last year. Look, I know we just spent like a bit of time talking about Cork City, but I watched that under-19 game today between Wexford and Cork City, and a really good game, really high quality end to end. But just one thing, on the bench today, Aoife McIver. It's her first game back on the bench after a serious injury late last season, so just good to see her returning to action. But a lot of big results.
Absolutely, yeah, and best of luck to her in that recovery from injury. And look, to everybody playing underage, everybody involved, coaching, managing, refereeing, whatever it might be, fair play. It's the effort that's put in is appreciated, even if nobody ever says it is. Guys, we had a big Saturday in the SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division. Eileen, the day kicked off at Talca Park with a 2:00 start for we had Rachel Graham on last week. We were all hoping it was going to be this outstanding game of football, and it was one of the worst games of the last 10 years, I'd imagine. Shelburne 0, Shamrock Rovers 0. Take us through it if you can.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, was it? Actually, I actually kind of feel stupid because I was speaking so well of the league after the last set of fixtures. It was not good this weekend. But look, you'll have those weekends as well. I think, to be fair, I think the conditions in Talca Park probably didn't help either side. I actually think Shamrock Rovers were the better side. Like, Amanda Budden's probably not going to have... She certainly wasn't expecting to have that quiet a game in Talca Park. Like, I know Shells had a goal disallowed. I can't comment was it offside or not because the stream went. But like, I don't know, like, it was just really, really poor. I thought Shelburne were very, very poor. They never got going. I think Shamrock Rovers had a lot more intensity. They were winning first balls, they were winning second balls. And I think Shelburne would be really disappointed. And I think obviously before the game, they would have obviously wanted to win, but I think at the end of the game, Shamrock Rovers have to be the more disappointed. Like, they have to be disappointed only leaving with a point, because obviously they had a penalty. It was a brilliant save by Amanda McQuillan. Maybe a poor penalty as well, but I always think a keeper does well to save it. Look at you, don't be giving out. Like, a keeper does well to save a penalty. It wasn't a great penalty, but a keeper does well.
Okay, I'm sorry. Jesus, I won't make any more faces. I genuinely thought it was a very poor penalty. I thought it was a very, very poorly struck penalty.
Yeah, I often think, does Steph Zambra strike a ball maybe a bit sweeter than Anya? But like, look, at the same time, Anya doesn't miss many penalties, so it's hard to argue with it at the same time. But I think Amanda makes another brilliant save late on, and I just thought she was very, very good. I was actually surprised she wasn't in Team of the Week. In fact, as soon as I saw her save the penalty, I was like, oh, she's in. But no, yeah. I think they took Steph Zambra, apologies, off early enough again, and like, she wasn't happy, and I like to see that. I really like to see players kind of being a bit annoyed about being taken off. But I think brought on Jamie Thompson for her, and I think there's probably a bit of merit in playing the two of them together, because Steph will obviously win a huge amount of ball, and like, Jamie's so good technically. I don't understand why she's not getting more game time. Like, look, I get it to a point that like, she's fiery, but like, if you try to take that away from her and take like the fact that sometimes she does kind of mad things away from her, you kind of take it away from a player. Like that's, as said, a little bit like Noelle has it on the other side. Like, a lot of top players like have that kind of, I said it, maybe we'll call it a fiery streak. So I think, and like, I think for Shamrock Rovers, somebody sent me their manager's interview afterwards, and he thinks they're like going to hockey a team soon. Some team's going to get a roll, but like I just don't see it. Look, I'm not saying they're not capable of doing it, but it's just hard to see at the moment, because as I said, I do think how Shelburne showed up, and it was just one of those days, I think, for them. I think what helped Shelburne, and I'm not saying it's just because she was on the podcast last week, but when Rachel Graham came on, it made a huge difference, because she just does everything right, and it's the simple things right. And they just had this tendency, especially centrally, the midfielders, they wanted to over carry the ball. They wanted to take too many touches, whereas Rachel was just moving it on in one touch. She's moving it on in two touches. And it's always the simple thing, and it's the right thing. And when she came on, she did settle Shelburne. But I do think it was the same old problem for them of that kind of lack of a striker. And like, they've just, you're dropping points, and that's grand when everyone's dropping points, but there's a side not dropping points. So like, it does kind of become a thing of like, while we're saying any team can beat anyone, when one side suddenly is going to build up a lead, it'll be hard to kind of chop back at it. And especially when it's a side who looks so solid at the back. But yeah, look, it was a disappointing game. One of those things, I think it's hard. You're coming back, as I said, the pitch isn't great up in Talca. The pitches aren't great anywhere, obviously, at the moment. And I think the break probably didn't help anybody either. You probably had a lot of under-19s on both sides, and although I thought actually Leo Leary was probably Shamrock Rovers' best player, like I do still think like they're probably leggy. They're coming off, they've played 3 games in the space of 10 days. Obviously you have travel as well on top of that. So yeah, look, a disappointing game, but I think ultimately probably a better point for Shelburne the way the game went than for Shamrock Rovers.
John, I exchanged some messages after the game with a member of Shelburne royalty, and their opinion was simply that neither Shelburne nor Shamrock Rovers will prove to be good enough to win the league come the end of the season. Is that something you'd now be willing to agree with?
Yeah, I think so. I think Eileen kind of nailed it there when she said that every team seems like they're capable of taking points off each other, bar Galway at the moment. They're and to a lesser extent that Lone. I think those two are going to start opening up a lead on the rest the way things are going. But yeah, it's funny. We're very early in the season, but it already feels like, that there's not an insurmountable gap building up, but it's very hard to see where look, they're playing Peamount next week, and that'll be a good indication of where they are. Next league game, that'd be a good indication of where they are. But yeah, I can't see Shells, and as much as I tipped them at the start of the season, I can't see Shells without a striker clawing back that points gap to Galway as it is, nor Shamrock Rovers.
Kiva Keenan, in her post-game interview with, I think it was the Women's National League show, spoke about their failure to take their chances, etc., without ever mentioning that they were short a striker. She was quite happy with how they were defensively, Eileen. But again, she said when their keeper's saving penalties and defensively they're keeping clean sheets, there's an onus on players at the other end of the pitch to finish chances and take chances and convert them and score goals. But look, we're going to have to leave that game there. Second game up was the game in the UCD Bowl, which finished DLR 1, Cork City 1, John. And really the note I made about this game was simply that Cork City have been ahead in so few games over the last 2 or 3 years that they actually don't know how to win a game. Again, is that just Decky being harsh, or is there, in your opinion, is there merit in that thought process?
No, there definitely is to a degree, because I think on the day City were the better team, created the better chances, but for the last 10-15 minutes, if there was going to be, after DLR equalised, it looked like if there was going to be a winner, it would have been DLR who would have won. And I do think there's an element, and again, look, you have to look at where City were last year and where they've come from, and feeling disappointed with an away draw in Dublin is an almost brand new feeling for us. But it did feel like that we still have to figure out how to be the team with more possession, and how to break down a side that will sit back that little bit more. Look, it wasn't a great game, but yeah, in the end, I think City were probably better overall. I think a draw probably ended up. It would have been hard to deny DLR, saying they deserved to pull one back the way they finished the game.
Yeah, Eileen, I just want to clarify, like that my thought process there isn't meant in any way as a criticism in Cork City or the players or anything else. It's just like, I'm a great believer in there are processes that you have to learn as a team, as an individual, as a player, and always kind of feels like you have to finish second in a league before you go on to win one, or you have to lose a Champions League final before you win it the next year, this kind of thing, and that's just what struck me very early on Saturday. It was like City went ahead early, and it was just a kind of thing of like, we just don't know how to win a game, or they weren't sure whether they should be going for the second or sitting in, and then there's an element of confusion about the whole thing, and you probably start dropping off the game plan and getting a little deep early in these kind of things and inviting on pressure, and eventually DLR got the goal that they probably deserved, where I think if it was 0-0 after 70 minutes and City were still going forward and were still playing to their game plan, I think in a weirder way, the way they scored late with Bowes is probably a better way at the moment for City to win games than it is to go 1-up after 12 or 15 minutes,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. Like, because as you said, like, and it's, as you said, it's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just a case of they're not used to going into games, A, as favourites, and B, as you said, then holding on to a lead. And look, as soon as they go 1-up early, you have to go for the jugular then, like, but I completely understand why that reluctance is, because at 1-0, like, another side, no matter who you're playing, are always going to be in the game, like, and then there's going to be, as you said, like, they're not used to winning a huge amount of games. So as the game goes on and there's only one goal in it, like, you're naturally going to retreat, like, with the best will in the world. And I could hear Danny on the sideline, like, shouting at them to get out at times. But, like, I mean, that's probably an easier thing to do from the sideline than when you're on the pitch and you're feeling that pressure. Like, but I think you have to. I'm going to give, like, Cork City maybe a bit more grace than I normally would. Like, I mean, these players are having to do an outrageous amount of travel at the moment. Every single weekend, like, it's an absolute trek for them. Like, obviously, look, it's out of their control, but they should have been in Turner's Cross this week. We should have been in Turner's Cross a few weeks ago to go to Wexford. And I think that's really, really hard on them. Like, they're going to go well over 6 weeks without playing a game at home. And there's none of those away trips are easy. Like, they're away in, like, they go to, is it Dublin next week and Sligo the week after? Like, it's a lot. Like, it's an awful lot. So I'm going to give them a bit of grace. And I think there are positive signs. And look, it's not a case of in the past with City we win a game and then we just fall off. You can see it's not there. You can see the change in mentality. And look, that'll take time as well, to build properly. And as you said, when you're getting used to maybe going in as favourites, scoring early, what can we do to maybe kind of kill a team off that maybe teams that are a bit more used to winning, I think, will do.
Can I just say Cork City weren't favourites? They were quite a nice price, to be honest with you.
Oh, no, Declan.
No.
You backed them.
They were quite a nice price. That's probably what happened, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Been back them in years. Just very quickly, Eileen, what do you make of DLR?
Yeah, to be fair, like they did well. Like, they stayed in the game. We haven't probably been overly positive about them, but like, they've had a couple of good results this season. And look, they're always well organised. Like, Laura's a really, really good coach. And they were without Jess as well. We'd spoke with that a couple of weeks ago. And I thought they did well. I think, like, Michelle Doonan is excellent for them, isn't she? She's very, very good. And she's always a big outlet for them. So, and she carries a threat no matter who she's up against, because, like said, that first game of the season, like, she gave Seana Fox and Jess Hennessy an awful time, and like, they're two really, really good defenders. So, yeah, I think it's hard for DLR, and it's always going to be hard for them. But it's said, like, they have a very good manager who has them well organised. And if you stay in games and you have that kind of option up top, she's going to make stuff happen and create opportunities for others. So I do think they have some very good young players, if they can hold on to them. Also, Cork City's kit. That's the first time any Cork City team has played in that kit. It's sensational.
Yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous.
It is.
Stunning.
Yeah. Unbelievable. John, the surprise package derby was a bit of a damp squib after all our talking about it last week. But the only thing is, there was no bragging rights for anybody. It's just as we were.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I actually thought it was a good game. I thought there was like, it started at a cracking pace, and well, no, I might have been the two games that preceded it, not being the most exciting, might have meant I was a bit more positive about it than it might deserve. But I really enjoyed it. I don't think either team was holding back. There was a lot of positive play. I think Sligo, on balance, probably were the better side, and maybe created, certainly second half, maybe created a couple of the better chances. But yeah, no bragging rights, 0-0. I did call it a draw, but then I was just sitting on the fence, to be fair. Like,
Just like to get that in there, but I was right. Eileen, it's one of those results that doesn't really do a whole lot for either team, but it doesn't damage either side in any way either, you know? So, I mean, it's probably not a result that's going to bother either manager in any great way, especially this early. Like, we say this early in the season, and John referenced it, but I mean, next league game is you're a quarter of a way through the season already. So while it's early in the number of games, in the amount of the season gone, it's not quite that early anymore, you know?
No, and I think I saw somebody tweet after this tweet. I actually don't know who that person is, but they tweeted. It just came up on my For You page that shows the level treat you're actually at, and I thought that was really disrespectful to Sligo because they're a very good side. Like, of course, look, both sides will have went in fancying to win it. I think it's probably a better point for Treaty because they were missing a good few, so there was a lot of changes in that Treaty side, but. Yeah, that was the comment I thought was a little bit strange because he said it was disrespectful to Sligo. Maybe I don't know what that's been based on. Obviously, that person has never watched Sligo Rovers game this season because they're a very, very, very good side. Ultimately, I think at the end of the season, there's not going to be much between them on the table. So I think that game is probably an indication of where they'll end up at the end of the season as well. And who will have the bragging rights in this podcast, time will tell.
Just finally on that game, and we spoke about it last week and gave it a lot of praise, that Treaty did the double ticket for Friday night and Saturday for €15. You could go to both games, and in fairness, they had a decent crowd there on Saturday, but unfortunately for them as a club, both Friday night and Saturday were both 0-0 draws. Going forward, John, if they do the double ticket again, do you think that double 0-0 draw is in danger of affecting? And like, there's nothing anybody can do about that. And the men's game on Friday night, going by the numbers, was an absolute cracker. Like, the XG was 4.3 something for the game, yet it finished 0-0. Like, there was Treaty had 19 shots, Kerry had 18, I think. Kerry had 9 shots on target, you know. So like, 0-0 draws happen, but it sounded like especially the men's game was a cracker anyway, and you enjoyed the women's game. So, you know, 0-0s mightn't tell the whole story of the weekend up there.
No, I don't think so. And look, it did work. They had a very good crowd. I think the game was probably entertaining enough that, like, it was a nice afternoon as well, you know, up in Limerick. Like, I think it was an entertaining enough game that it'll encourage a lot of those people to come back. And yeah, I'd be interested to see if they can, you know, add a few to, if they go for that kind of double ticket or combo ticket again, because it certainly worked in terms of attendance numbers anyway.
Eileen, while all that was happening in Limerick, a short hop and a skip up the road, Galway were putting 4 past Bows. They're turning into a serious outfit.
Yeah, and like 4-0 doesn't tell the story at all. It could have been any scoreline. Like, they were incredible. Like, they created chance after chance. Marie O'Sullivan started in goal for Galway, and honestly, like, she could have sat at home in Ballincollig and watched it on the LOI stream. Like, I don't think like she had a save to make until about the 90th minute. Like, they were so good. They're just such a good attacking side, and like, I think, especially in what I think will stand them in tighter games, is like, you have obviously the likes of Julianne and Jenna who are creating things. You have Lindsay, and they're all girls who are willing to take shots on. So they're going to get a huge number of corners. That girl, Isabella Belitic, like, she's a giant and she is so good in the air, and like scored another cracking header at the weekend. That's such a huge plus for them. They're just really good to watch. Like, they were excellent. Like, to be fair to Bowes, like, they couldn't, like, I don't think it, like, they couldn't do anything. It's not that, like, they were just completely outclassed. And I think that Galway side are going to have the ability to do that to a side, especially when they get that early kind of start. And then, like, for Bowes, like, they hit them with 3 goals kind of in a really quick period of time. But like, it could have been a lot more. Like, they were probably guilty of being squandering a couple of chances. And then Rachel Kelly made a couple of great saves as well. But no, they're very, very good. And look, they're playing Peamount now next in the league. And I think that's probably that'll be a really interesting game to see, because like if they come through that and you win that game and you've won 5 from 5, it's kind of hard to see past them then at that stage, isn't it? Because it's the fact that it's like everyone's dropping points and they're not. That's the thing. Like right now you're kind of saying, and it's the clean sheets, and it's just the ease of with what that clean sheet came the other day was just, it was really impressive, because like I said, that Bohemian side, they're a good side. They're a well organized side. They're really solid defensively, and they tore them apart. They absolutely tore them apart.
The amazing thing is, John, and Eileen has spoken, and we spoke about it as a podcast on a few occasions, about how defensively teams were better, and games have been generally low scoring. And I'm just looking here now. Galway have played 4 games and have scored 14 goals. Right, the next highest scorers are Athlone, who have 5.
Jesus.
Yeah, and Athlone got 3 of them the other night with a game we haven't spoken about yet. So, Galway are the side who are out there just putting the ball in the back of the net with continual ease. No other team in the division seems to be able to do that.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, at the start of the season, or kind of when we spoke up, like on our preview for the season, Eileen, wisely made the comment that if Galway could be consistent, they'd be a serious team, and they seem to be consistent. And what's as much though as that 14 goals is really, really impressive, it's actually how tight they are at the back. Like no one's laying a glove on them as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they've conceded the least amount of goals as well. Don't call me out there now, Jackie, if my stats are completely wrong. But they've been exceptional, and if they can keep it going, like.
Themselves and Treaty have conceded 2, but Treaty have played 3 games. Galway played 4 games. Shelbourne have only conceded once in 4 games. But yeah, they're so second best, say, because they've played 4 games. Shells have conceded 1, but Shells aren't winning. Shells aren't scoring at the other end. That's their big problem. Galway have only conceded 2 and scored 14. And the 2 of those came in the 1 game in Sligo. So
Yeah, I think what really stands out as well is the decision making there. Like they're very unselfish in front of goal. And again, look, it's kind of moving from being a Karen Duggan fan podcast to Julianne Russell fan podcast. But look, Karen, I'm sure will be okay with that. But like, she really could have had about 10 assists. Like she was putting stuff on plates for people where she could be taking a shot on, and she doesn't, because she always makes the right choice. And it's not just her. Like Lindsay McKee is incredibly unselfish. Jenna's unselfish when they need to be. Like when there's a better option there, they take the better option. And I think for Phil as a manager, that's huge credit to him. But like that must be such a satisfying thing as a manager to see that the decision making in the final third, because ultimately, like, that's kind of what makes the difference, especially in tighter games, like that, that if she's in and there's someone that's more central, the ball's going to be squared to them. Like, and I think that's what really stood out to me at the weekend. It was all the right choice. It was the right decision every time to lay a ball off or when to take a shot on. And it said that's just, and as you said, like, it's just the fact they're so, it wasn't even a case that they were tight. It said like the keeper could have stayed at home. Like they were that good defensively. So yeah, they're just impressive. Look, I'm sure they'll have moments in the season. They're going to have tougher moments in the season without a doubt. And I suppose that's where they'll ultimately be judged. But right now, I think just sit back and enjoy them anytime they're playing, because they play a great brand of football.
Yeah, no, they are fantastic to watch. Just Tony, you mentioned Phil there. Like, I know I said it too. I don't know whether I said it publicly or not, but the night he was here and he was brilliant to us, gave us all the time, answered our questions and whatnot. But I said to you guys afterwards, there was just an aura about the man of complete and utter confidence about what this season was going to bring for Galway, and it's when a manager is that confident without being in any way cocky, and he didn't say we're going to win the league, he didn't say anything like that. As I said, everybody heard what we spoke about and how we answered the questions, but there was just a vibe, there was an aura when you were sitting looking at him, that it was just like, I said it to you guys afterwards, like, that man really believes Galway are going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season, and they hadn't kicked the ball at that stage.
Yeah, no, and look, he's been proven right, but it was kind of that aura of a manager that knew what he had at his disposal, trusts his players, and look, again, it's like when Eileen talks about the decision making there, obviously the amount of work that's been done, on the training ground, he's probably having the most relaxed 90 minutes on a weekly basis as a manager imaginable, because there's no notes for the team as they're playing. Like, they're just consistently good.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch. So we'll see what the next few weeks bring for them. When all that was done and dusted, everybody's eyes turned to Athlone, where Athlone were hosting Piedmont. No, not wanting to overreact or overstate things, Eileen, but was this the greatest game of women's football of all time?
It certainly saved a lot of our Saturdays, didn't it?
Oh yeah, unreal.
Like, to be fair, TJ Carr definitely picked the right game.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And like, it would have been very easy if you're looking at the fixtures that weekend to say, we'll go to Talca Park.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And I'm just saying it's silent prayer here now, thanking them that they didn't, because unbelievable advert for the league here, for the game here. The penalties were, there was 2 penalties. Like, to me, the Piedmont penalty is never a penalty. It was given, Grand Piedmont scored, but it didn't knock nothing out of Athlone, John. They were just completely confident in what they wanted to do, and it was a case of, okay, we're 1 down. Let's just stick to our game plan. Let's just do what we want to do and trust in our methodologies and everything else, and trust in what it is we want to achieve. And they just went about their business and ultimately were very correct in what they did,
Yeah, I know that they were excellent. And the thing was, Piedmont were pretty good. It's not a case that they were, shooting fish in a barrel. Like, they had to work for it. But
yeah,
the second half, they just changed through the gears, and they were exceptional. But it was a fantastic. And to be fair, TG Cahir, the package they put together for the game, in terms of just the analysis, even that kind of high shot from behind the goals with the camera, just little things that just elevated it, and it made it such a good advert for the league. But it was a fantastic game, some fantastic goals. Incredible pace to it. I was keeping an eye on Karen Duggan after Eileen mentioning last week that she hates playing in Athlone on that pitch. Like, Piedmont, I thought Piedmont were actually quite good, but just Athlone were just better, and that's what it came down to in the end. Just and that Casey Howe goal at the end was just, Jesus, it was sensational. Like,
unreal. It's one of those, if Messi does it or Ronaldo does or anything else, it has 20 million views on social media and the rest of it. Eileen, your old buddy Kieran Kilduff was on LOI Central last week, where John and Dan were asking him about maybe opportunities that might have presented themselves to him in the men's game, and whether he'd be interested in the Dundalk job or other opportunities that might come along in the future in the men's game. And his answer was a very clear and unequivocal, I'm not looking for another job. I'm very happy with the job I have, which I guess, kind of half surprised me a little bit, but I thought the Dundalk job might be something that would interest him. But he was just coolness personified then as well on Saturday night when the whole third Casey Howe goal goes in. If I'm the manager there, I don't care. I'm sprinting down the sideline, Jose Mourinho, whereas Kieran is just cool, calm, and collected. Almost as if I see this in training every night. This is nothing new to me. This is what I expected.
Yeah, I think Kieran, that's him, personality wise, that's the way he is anyway. He's not a fella who'd get too high or too low anyway, I would think. And you could see it. And that was the thing in the cup final when they got the winner. It was almost like, I know it's a cup final. And I think he said it afterwards, like, he's never reacted like that. Because he's just always, and you could see, like, for all the Athlone goals, the whole bench is going nuts and he's just there and doing his job. And it's probably, look, it's a little bit different in the league because we have a lot of very animated characters on the sideline. So it's a good contrast. But look, no wonder he's happy at Athlone, because look at the football they play, like, and they're such a good side to watch. And like, obviously they all take on board exactly what he says. And I think they're, like I said, when Piedmont score, naturally, of course, their heads could drop. And it was the same with Shelburne last week, but they don't. They're really confident in what they're doing, especially as an attacking side. And I think defensively, they are very solid. Like, it's not a penalty. It's an incredible tackle. Like, it's an incredible tackle.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, but look, as I said, the penalty's given, so it is a penalty. So that's fair enough. But I thought Piedmont were good, which is even more remarkable that it really could have been like Athlone could have had 7 or 8 goals. Like they created so much. Like they were very wasteful. Like, I mean, Casey Howe, like her 2 goals are incredible strikes, and probably the most difficult of her chances. Like, but a great week for her. Like she came on for Northern Ireland during the week in the qualifiers as well. So it's great for her to top off that week. Like Maddie Gibson's class, isn't she? Like she's so good. And like I just think the pitch really suits their style of play, and they're just so used to it. And I can see maybe why other sides don't like going to Athlone. It's just I'm kind of asking myself the question all day now: was that Galway game just a write off for Athlone where they just had a terrible game, or are Galway that good? Do you know, that kind of way? It's still, I'm thinking of that all day. Because like Athlone kind of look at the moment like the next best, and even like Jesus, Karen Duggan has one incredible shot, and like Katie Keane gets across to it, and it's a time where it's a brilliant save. So like they know they have a really quality keeper. Like I think Jessie Rossman is brilliant at centre half for them. She's probably one of these players I think that goes under the radar a lot in the league, but she's been brilliant since she's come in. So yeah, they have a lot of good players. They have a lot of good players all over the pitch, and even who they're bringing off the bench, and they're really well led by Laurie Ryan as well. Look, it's no kind of secret now. I obviously like players who do the simple things right. I'm like over even a flair player, and like she's another, like she was in team of the week, and I was actually surprised she was in there because she didn't score or save a penalty or have a clean sheet, but she deserved to be in there because like she marshaled Karen and Erin really, really well, and I think kind of stopped them. But again, for Peamount, they do struggle with outside Doyle, like, don't they? And of course they do, like, but I think they just need her back, and they need her back quick, because it said if they have to get a result now against Galway, they have to, like, they have to realistically probably beat Galway, or they could be out of that title race already.
Yeah, like I mean, Peamount John have lost now at home to Shelburne. They've lost away to Athlone. So let's say the 2 top teams that they've faced so far, they've lost both games. As Eileen says, Galway now, even though it's only the 5th game, which would be quarter way through the season, it's almost must win, because if Galway beat them, as Eileen said, they're probably done and dusted a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the points gap would be, but it's probably 7. It'll probably take them up to 9 or 10 points off Galway. But yeah, it's funny to be talking about this early in the season, but it's really hard to see Galway dropping many points. And like, again, to Eileen's point, what she said there earlier, they've already played Athlone and beaten them and looked really good doing it. So it's very hard to see who's going to rattle Galway this season. Look, I'm not saying they're going to go through the season unbeaten or anything, but over, week on week, when you look at the next game, like, they're strong favourites now against Peamount. Yeah, Peamount probably do have to win it, or they are kind of, I think already the gap is opening up, and it looks like it's going to be a shootout between Galway and Athlone.
Yeah, Galway are 6 points currently clear of Peamount, and they have their goal difference is 15 better. Peamount are -1, Galway are Galway are +12, sorry. So they have a 13 goal difference better, so that's another point almost, so.
Yeah.
Interesting. Guys, question for you. Casey Howe's first goal, just right at the end of the first half, the hook over the shoulder from Maddie Gibson from a throw-in. Am I off my head saying that that's come from the training ground and it's a very deliberate ball by Maddie Gibson, and it's not just a careless hook over the shoulder, but the whole thing is laid out and planned?
I don't think it's a careless hook over the shoulder. I'm not sure it's a completely pre-planned move, but I think Maddie Gibson's very aware of what she's doing. If it's pre-planned, it's Jesus, Kieran, fair play. Maybe you should get the Dundalk job, but I don't think it's I don't think it's a hit and hope from Maddie Gibson either. I think we've seen enough of her to know that she's not she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah, I think Maddie Gibson had a real sense how far over Peamount were pulled, and Casey Howe was obviously staying quite wide, but as well, Casey Howe's finish for that just changed the shape of her foot right as the ball is landing to her, and completely changed the direction where she's going. Like, Niamh Reid Burke is going the wrong way, and again, it started like the same 3 people were involved in both goals. It was Shauna Brennan's quick throw in and her break from defence as well. Another player who I think is kind of going under the radar at loan. She's been excellent. But yeah, I don't know if it was off the training ground, but definitely I'd say Maddie Gibson was well aware of what was around her and where the space was.
Can I just say what makes me think it's off the training ground was Casey Howe's starting position? Because she's your 9, and you never see your 9 that wide, that far when you have an attacking throw in on the other side of the pitch. The 9 is nearly always down the line looking for the ball to be thrown to her, or is in around the penalty area. I could be off my head completely, and hopefully maybe somebody listening can let us know whether it was or not from the training ground. But I just think Casey Howe's starting position out wide, they've deliberately pulled Piedmont across the park, I think, and then Maddie Gibson is putting a ball into expecting Casey. No, as I said, somebody might be going, your man's completely off his chuck, like, you know, but there's just elements of it that I think are very, very coincidental if it has been that way. Finished at Lone 3, Piedmont 1. Anything else from the game stand out, Eileen, or that you want to comment on before we move on?
No, I just missed as good as the TG Car production was, I really missed the microphone in the stand in Athlone. I think he would have been on bang on form now last night for that game, like, especially for the penalty that was given away.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah, he would have been in good form, all right, definitely. But look, there'll be other games to head to Athlone for anyway. So look, that was the Saturday. That was basically not as good as the previous Saturday, Eileen, but as you said, Athlone Piedmont really saved it. Also, the 7:30 kickoff timer, 25-8 on a Saturday night, in terms of TG Carher and television time and everything, it's a brilliant time, lads. I didn't actually realise it. I don't drink much, but I did go out yesterday and I was in a bar in Mallow having a couple of pints. And I realised the rugby was over, the Premiership stuff was over, and there was this gap in the scheduling, and I actually asked them in the bar to put on the game, and they did, and it ended up, most of the bar ended up watching the game and talking about it, and, you know, talking about what a good goal, you know, the second goal was, what a great shot that hit the crossbar. And I was kind of going, Jesus, this is weird, like, but it was like, this is a really good time, and if we could just get, you know, bars to put it on in that subdued, you know, where there's no other sport on, and we could get people talking about the game. I was in Mallow again on last Tuesday, and I was walking down the street, and your ears prick up when you hear things. There was two old gentlemen, should I say, standing outside the High B Hotel, and one says to the other, I suppose you'll watch the Champions League games tonight. And your man said, no, the girls are on. I watched them Friday night, and I know they were beaten in France, but I thought they were quite good, so I'm going to watch their game again. And the other fella says, oh, Christ, I forgot about that. I might watch them as well. So instead of watching the Champions League. And, you know, it's only a 5-second conversation I hear between the two lads, but you're kind of going, like, things are slightly changing. Like, you know, now, to be fair, as I said, there were two elderly gentlemen, you know, somewhere older than John, and probably between John and basically, I suppose, you know. Yeah, you know. But, you know, there was just like little things around the place that you go, yeah, there might be opportunities here to broaden the horizon of the game, you know.
It's the same with any sport, and any league or any branch of it. If you have a good product, God, I hate using that phrase, but if you have a good product, which we do in the country, and if it's well marketed and well presented, it's going to get eyes and it's going to get interest, and it's that simple. And part of it is having games like Athlone, where good crowd there, good quality football, great coverage. Fellas in bars will watch any sport on the telly, and there's no reason why you wouldn't have, you know, a women's game on there and have people enjoy it. Like, again, look at the standard. Like, you hear so much nonsense, but the standard of the league here is really, really good. Obviously, look, it's not the English Premiership, or, you know, but it's well worth supporting. It's well worth watching. You know, it's a product we should be proud of. And that's the last time I will ever call it a product.
Yeah, product. It wouldn't be put on in Joey Barton's local, we could say that much, though. Look, we're going to have to park it there. We're going to have to park it there, otherwise it's going to be another 3-hour pod. So, time to move on. good, the bad, and the ugly time. Eileen, you told me you wanted to take the good, so we'll hand it off to you.
I am going to take the good. And while the game was terrible, my good this week is Seana Cook on commentary for a number of reasons. Number one, she's probably one of the only people on, like, the commentary on LOI TV is really, really good, don't get me wrong. But Seana's the only one to just she's not afraid to call it exactly how it is. This is a high level of sport, and the players are very aware, as they're becoming more well known, as there's more support, that you're going to have to be criticised and you have to take that on the chin. But we're still a little bit afraid to do it now. Obviously, we're not afraid to do it, but a lot of people still are. Yeah. Like, players aren't offended if I come on here and say that game was shite. Like they're not. Do you know what I mean? And she offers a criticism that's justified at times, but it wasn't that. That's great, and I've spoke highly of her in the past. It was her commentary about the referee, 10 out of 10. The referee was absolutely terrible. He was genuinely awful. Now, the only thing, what I will say, and I said it to a League of Ireland referee today, actually, during the day, is at least he was consistently awful for both sides. But I think there was one comment, I think Stevie Wonder would have seen that foul. It was my personal favourite. And then late on in the game, come here, did they just find this fella walking outside Talca Park before the game or what? Genuinely excellent commentary. And there's rumours, I heard someone told me she might not be doing it for much longer, but no, she mightn't be allowed to do it for much longer after that. But more of Seana Cook.
Very good. You know what, this one's gone on to that, but we might come back to it next week or why not. But obviously I track the referees, I've all this stuff on referees, but I will say that was that referee's very first League of Ireland game, and I'm absolutely stunned that was the game he was appointed to. But look, as I said, we can get into it another time because it is a subject I want to get to in the next couple of weeks. John, you're taking the bad, which again, of course, leaves me with the ugly, but go on anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking, and I'll keep it short. It was just some of the reaction to the fact that RT2 were showing the Women's International against England instead of the Champions League game between Man City and Real Madrid. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And the Champions League games were on multiple other channels. It's our national team playing England in a qualifier. Shut up. And if you don't want to watch it, turn on something else. Not a big deal. But yeah, my bad is the ridiculous reaction to that decision.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, but it's kind of coming from the same quarters that, you know, would be back in Vera Poe. And actually, we haven't even spoken about her interview with Richie Sadlier and the rest of it. And I don't know whether you want to get into it or not, Eileen, you know, but it's to me, that reaction was coming from the same area that I would expect, you know, this will left Vera Poe in charge and they're useless.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the element that League of Ireland football is shit. If it's that exact, do you know what I mean? Like, people that have no idea that we even have a really good league here, men's and women's, but like they'll go across the water 10 times a season and then wonder why football in Ireland's in a bad spot. Like, just, it's nonsense. Like, they're not people that'll be listening to this pod, so we could call them plebs.
Yeah. Speaking of people who are listening to this pod, I'm left with the ugly again. I'm going to get a complex very, very shortly, but my ugly is going back to Talca Park again, and it's the attendance figure. 313 people is what is recorded on FAI Connect as the attendance at that game on Saturday, and I am somewhat shocked that it is such a low number. DLR there's no recorded attendance on there, but if there was more than 30 people in the bowl on Saturday, I would be stunned. Galway 612, that's a decent crowd. Treaty 506, Athlone 512. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd love to see all those going over 1,000 and that, but you had this big Rings End derby, and, you know, I listen to the Shelbourne podcast every week. I like it. I like what the lads on it do, and I listen to a lot of sport podcasts and things like that, and it's just fallen into my rotation. And Shelbourne have come from a low ebb. They're coming back as a club. Damien Duff has done unreal work there to publicise the club as a whole. I thought his reaction to what went on in Drogheda was unbelievably good. And I was just, as I said, Eileen, I was just absolutely stunned to see the attendance at 313. I genuinely thought there'd surely be 1,000 people there anyway. And I don't know why there wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Did their men's team obviously lost in Talca on Friday night? Did that affect it? Because it's unusual, and I always speak really highly of Shelburne, like football club supporters, especially towards their women's side, because it said they could seem to support them home and away. But like I was really surprised, even watching the stream, like at the crowd, how poor it was. And like to be fair to Shamrock Rovers, like I think they always get quite good crowds at their home games, but they certainly haven't probably tapped into that kind of that support maybe that might travel across the city to go to an away game. But yeah, like for what is and what the league paint as one of the big games in the season, like it's disappointing, especially off the back of an international window as well, where like women's football has been the focus. Now I know in the Aviva Tuesday night there was posters and stuff, and there was the Athlone Peamount game. Maybe I don't know how much it was pushed. I wasn't in the Aviva either, so yeah, it certainly is disappointing, and I think it'll be disappointing for Shells as well, because I think last year that game did have a big crowd, and said you want rivalries to grow. And Rachel spoke about this last week, and it's kind of hard then when you've only 300 at what is potentially, or what on paper is, one of the bigger games of the season.
Yeah, look, we'll leave it there because I could pontificate for a long time about marketing strategies and involving the clubs, but I do think there needs to be a sit down between the clubs, the FAI, and an overall marketing strategy developed and adhered to, and like something like 4 days before a game, this is what you put out on our social media. 2 days before the game, this is what goes out. 24 hours, this is what goes out. The morning of the game, this is what goes out. And all clubs do it, and it all goes out, and it becomes consistent, and it's done regularly, and you drive the message home individually as clubs, collectively as a league, and you just drive it and drive it and drive it, because it's not happening. Some clubs are brilliant, some clubs are really, really poor, but there's no overall marketing strategy. There's no overall development strategy for the game, as I can see it at the moment anyway. But look, next weekend we go back to the Avenir Sports Women's All-Ireland Cup 2024 to give it its proper official title. I hope they're not actually putting that in the cup, because there'll be no room for the winner's name then. But we have Group A. Linfield play Bows on Saturday at 3:00 in Linfield, and then Lisburn host Peamount on Sunday at 4. Bows qualify if they win, and then in the Lisburn Peamount game, Lisburn go out if they lose. There's combinations of results then if they're both draws, etc., that can knock teams out as well. But fundamentally, Bows qualify if they win, Lisburn go out if they lose to Peamount. I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can say about these games at the moment, Eileen. I mean, would you expect Peamount to make changes, I suppose, Bows to make changes for those games? Or is this now becoming a competition that Peamount suddenly almost want to win because they can see their league slipping away already?
I think two things on Peamount. I think one, they're going to look at Lisburn, and they're probably going to look at the Bows game and say, like, we have a chance to score our goals here, and I think they need that. So I don't think they're going to make a huge amount of changes. I also don't think their squad they have the depth at the moment with injuries and stuff to make a load of changes. Look, the reality with Peamount, and I heard Karen Duggett say it during the week, is they probably punched a bit above their weight last season in terms of resources and what was available. And maybe that's kind of catching up with them a bit this season. But I wouldn't expect to see a huge amount of changes, because you said A, it's a cup to win, and B, I think they will look, if they can, maybe look, momentum's huge, and if you get 4 or 5 goals in that game and win comfortably, you're kind of going into Galway with your tails up, as opposed to maybe putting out a real weakened side and kind of struggling over the line,
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. John, Group B then, Shelburne host Cork City at 3:00 on Saturday, and then Wexford play Cliftonville in Wexford at 6. I know we spoke about changes there for Peamount. I actually would expect to see a number of changes for Cork City in this game. I think players like Jessie Mendes, Shauna McCarthy, Ciara Mack, obviously all need minutes. They all need to start the game. They need to come into the side. I also suspect that Shelburne might make a number of changes. Rachel Graham might start because she needs minutes. So Whereas Eileen said Peamount wouldn't be changed, and I think this is a game in which both teams might actually make a number of changes.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think both will want to blood their bench a little bit this game. They probably need to give. I think both teams probably have been in situations the last couple of games where there's players coming back from injury, or there's players that haven't gotten particularly huge amount of minutes yet that they know they will rely on and they will need, in the coming weeks and through the season. And the reality is this competition is an opportunity to do that. So look, I do think, especially Cork City side, you'll see a very different lineup than we've seen the last couple of league games, and possibly Shelbourne too. Yeah, I think Shelbourne, if they win, go through as well. So they might have that in the back of their head.
Well, all four teams drew the first games.
True, yeah.
Yeah, so no matter what happens, unless somebody gets absolutely thumped, you should have a chance in the last game. But again, it depends on what way things work out. I would say, Eileen, there was that Wexford who play Cliftonville at 6:00. Those two sides probably have an advantage in that they'll know already what's after happening in the other game, and can maybe tailor their efforts to whatever result it is that would suit them best following the first game,
and I think, look, Wexford, you'd expect to see their strongest 11 out, because again, like, they've had a nightmare start, so they want to build, and then they've Shelbourne the first game back. After I saw they did a weekend off today, so they're after a big break now. So you would expect like the strongest side they have available. And I saw they were on a team building exercise, so maybe a new Wexford upon return. They were surfing.
All right, okay.
If Instagram is to be believed.
They were brilliant. I'm trying to come up with a joke and I can't. It's just not there. There's nothing there. You just mentioned it there. They play Shelbourne the week after, and Kylie Murphy, I still believe, is going to be suspended for that Shelbourne game. So as a qualified coach, Eileen, do you play Kylie Murphy in this game, or do you sit her and go, we need to figure out how we play without Kylie Murphy in this game so we know how it's going to work against Shelbourne?
No, you play her because you want to win this cup and you're not going to win the league. So I think you play her.
Okay. That's
if she's fit.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah. Look, obviously that goes without saying. In Group C, Shamrock Rovers played DLR at 4:00 on Saturday. DLR are out if they lose. I was going to be cruel and say DLR are out when they lose, but I won't. Crusaders then play Treaty at 4:00 on Sunday. And really, if Shamrock Rovers win, then this becomes a game that Treaty can't lose, if that makes sense, if they wish to have a chance of progressing. So I presume you presume, like me, John, that Shamrock Rovers will beat DLR at home, having drawn their first 4 games in the league season. First 5, because they drew in this as well, didn't they? So
yeah,
they drew in the first game of this competition as well.
Yeah, I think based on watching the DLR Crusaders game, I think Treaty will win comfortably, to be honest. I do think Rovers will beat DLR. I think even in the league game, while DLR scored an excellent early goal from Michelle Doonan, but they were hanging on quite a bit at the end, and I don't think Rovers will make the same mistake this time. So I do think you're going to have a Rovers and Treaty win there.
Okay. Eileen, will Rovers rotate to a degree here, would you expect?
No, because I don't think they have a big enough squad to rotate that much. Like, they don't ever seem to have a massive amount of the bench. They seem to pull from their underage sides a lot. They did lose a lot of players. I know that's probably due to budget restraints in the off season, but look, again, they're probably going to look at it as maybe a chance for them to kick on now a bit, to finally get that win and kind of push on from there.
Yeah, I presume you'd expect the likes of Jamie Thompson to start, though, would you?
Yeah, like for the best football Rovers played last season was when she was firing. Like, so I think it's really important for them to get her firing, and I think they become a different animal if they can get her back in that form. And like, their main outlet at the moment is kind of Leo Larry, and I just would wonder probably about a couple of the 19s, like if there might be a bit of movement in the summer, like with chances to go abroad and stuff like that. And Leah, for me, is probably top of that list, and obviously maybe a few more if they have a good European Championship.
Okay, interesting. Finally, Group D, Galway play Glentoran at 5:00 on Saturday, and then Athlone host Sligo at 7:30. Athlone and Galway are both sitting on 3 points. Sligo and Glentoran obviously on no points. So if Galway and Athlone can win here, they're both qualified, and then they play each other in the third game, so they can just divvy it up and do whatever it is they want to do between them. Is there any fear that either side doesn't win, John?
No. I'll just finish it there. No, I think Galway will win comfortably. I think if Athlone do rotate or do look at it as an opportunity to bring someone else in and give them a few minutes, Sligo probably are more capable of causing an upset. But no, it would be very hard to see a situation where it's not 6 points for Galway and Athlone.
Right, so is there anything else that you would like to get off your chest before we allow our good, dearly beloved listeners to depart the pod for another week?
No, but you brought it up, so I will say I did listen to the Vera Pauw interview. I don't really want to give it that much time.
Oh, yeah.
I did listen to it, like, I don't know, I thought it was a bit off the wall. Like, fair play to her, because she obviously has a huge amount of trauma in her own personal life that she's dealing with at the moment. And for me, there was parts of the interview where I almost felt it was almost unfair interviewing her maybe at a time. But look, there's been a lot said about her by players and stuff, and I think she obviously wanted to speak back, and she's fully entitled to give her say. But yeah, look, it's a good listen. But at times I thought it was actually a bit of an uncomfortable listen, because as I said, like, she mentions her mental health and kind of dealing with trauma and stuff at the moment, and then started equating what happened in the World Cup and what happened with Diane Caldwell after to that trauma, and it got a little bit, as I said, maybe an uncomfortable listen at times. But look, I wish her well, and I hope she feels better after getting her say across, because of course it's not easy for anybody listening on and hearing that you're the big bad wolf all the time. But I suppose equally, like, she in her mind hasn't done anything wrong at any stage. And look, I'm sure with all these things, and I think I said it to you in the group last week, look, there's two sides to every story, and generally the truth will be landed kind of somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it was interesting to hear from her.
Okay, that seems like a good place to end the pod for another week. As always, we're very grateful for the listens, and we thank you for tuning in. And until next week, I guess we'll just say adios.
Adios.
Adios.